everyone, my name is Wana and you are watching Culture Diaries. Now on this week's episode, my guest is a visual artist whose work I consider intricate, delicate and just visually stunning and aesthetically beautiful. Her name is Ayobola Kekere-Ekun. Hi Ayobola.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, like how glad I am to have you. We've talked about this for like over a year, right?
Yeah, like pretty much a year.
And then something always like interrupts.
It's been a long time coming.
But I have to mention that we are at Rele Gallery in Onikon. Yes. And the reason I bring this up as well is because this is where we all fell in love with your work.
Yeah, I think this is where I met you actually.
Yes.
Yeah, like at the Young Contemporaries exhibition.
And it's so coincidental that we're having a Young Contemporaries exhibition going on right now downstairs.
It's like full circle.
Yeah, I know. How does that feel for you? The fact that this was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
3 years ago, you were one of the first Young Contemporaries. First set, exactly. Yeah. And then 3 years later, you're here and another set of Young Contemporaries, but you're doing like incredible.
It's weird.
Why is it weird?
I mean, it's a little weird because, you know, you walk in and you see all this amazing work and you're like, oh my gosh, this was me 3 years ago. Like the excitement of like the recognition, the validation, you know, I find myself excited for them.
Yeah.
Because like I know it's like just the beginning, like there are more things to conquer and you know, I feel a little jealous. You know, it's kind of like when someone watches like an episode of something you've already watched, but you know how awesome it is. Yeah. So you wish you could like experience it all over again. So, but it's amazing, and I think it's amazing that the initiative has continued. Yeah. And I'm just always curious to see what the next set is going to be like because, you know, there's just so many people doing like amazing work, and it's just interesting to see, you know, what they do next, really.
You mentioned validation. Yeah. And I want to know, before, you know, many of us discovered your work on the Young Contemporaries platform. What was the feeling in terms of needing validation or affirmation? And what did that process do for you moving forward?
I think it was a bit of a mixed bag. When I started out, I had a lot of insecurities about my work. I still do.
Like what were the insecurities at that time?
I think because I would do like research into like contemporary art, and what used to the like evil nagging thought was my work looks nothing like this. You know, like my work looks playful and, you know, almost aggressively bright sometimes, and you know, it doesn't look serious, and that used to bother me. It used to bother me a lot. And then one day when I came to like my personal realization that I wasn't going to let this thing get to me was the day I was at my sister's house and we were having lunch, and my sister basically had a meltdown that there was some plantain on her plate, and yeah, my sister doesn't eat plantain. And can I just say, plantain is like the greatest thing.
I agree.
That has ever happened to
I don't understand any human being who doesn't like plantain, but that's a separate story.
And then I realized, oh my gosh, there are people that do not like plantain. And I was like, if there's no hope for Dodo, like there's no hope for you. Like there's just, I'm telling you, that's why I tell my students, like if there is no hope for Dodo, there's no hope for you. There's no point trying to appeal to everybody. I don't think you should even want to appeal to everybody. Like the world is big enough. Like the people who your work will resonate with, they're out there. So that was like, I needed to come to like that stage in my personal like feelings about my work in order to get comfortable about putting my work out there, because you know, it's all well and good, but if you're just making the work to look at it, you know, that's not the goal. The goal is to get it out there. So, and then it helped me, you know, develop like the tools to like accept and process rejection, because if you're going to be a creative, you're going to face a lot of rejection. You know, it forced me to learn how to not to take no personally, and at this point I would rather hear a no, you know, than wonder, oh, what could have happened.
You have background in graphic design.
Yes.
So break down your first degree, your second degree, and you're onto your PhD now. So break it all down for me.
Okay, so I think we might have to start from like SS2.
Okay, let's dial it back.
Let's take it back. Let's take it way back, because I remember when I was in SS1, I wanted to study architecture. So, I wound up in a science class because, architecture.
Yeah.
And by the time I was in my third term SS2, I had changed my mind. Okay, I was going to do graphic design because I loved advertising. I loved mass communication. I find it really interesting how people can be manipulated by just images and words. I don't know what that says about me as a human being.
I was gonna say,
I don't know what that says
should
about
we be
me.
scared? It's like very surreptitious mind control going on, but carry on.
I don't know what that says, but it was something I was really interested in. And then by the time I came to that realization, it was too late to switch to art. So I had the weirdest jam combination. I did English fine arts. Yes, there's fine arts in jam. English fine arts, math, and economics. It was so weird, and somehow I did well. I did my post-jam. Somehow I did well, even though I ended up doing history and literature, subjects I had never done. But fortunately, I used to read their books for fun, so it wasn't that bad. And the history is just I do a lot of reading. But
it's all great research for your work anyway.
Yeah. At the end of the day. So when it was time to get into Unilag, during registration, Unilag was basically no, we can't register you. You're a science student whose only art course is art. You either have to do architecture, ironically, or do a social science course. And it was probably the worst week of my life, where I realized I wasn't going to get to do what I wanted to do. And I was one of the last people to register. Out of the blue, I just got a call that said, just come and register. And I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, so I went to register. And
did they tell you what course you were?
No, they said I could do the creative arts I wanted to do. Yeah. And then getting into the department, it turned out I wasn't going to get to do the graphic design I wanted to do right from the get-go. We had to take arts, because it's almost like a 3-in-1 department. You have, the visual arts, theater arts, music.
Yeah.
So we had to take classes from all three. So I had to act, and I had to do music. I learned how to read music.
Wow.
We had to sing. I'm a horrible singer, by the way. We're still not sure what part I sing, and then I had to do even the visual art side. I had to paint, I had to sculpt, and even though I still majored in graphic design, having that kind of diversified diet.
Yeah. I was going to say very immersive.
It really did help me to consider other modes of expression. But I didn't get into studio practice until my 4th year, which again was a mistake. In your 4th year, when you do your dissertation, you have to make a piece as well. That's the culmination of your 4 years. And I did not want to paint. I hated painting. We were not friends. The colors were not. We didn't get along basically. So I knew I didn't want to paint, and I had started a project. I had started making this what I would now call a mini installation piece. But it was one of those situations where you have an excellent idea, but you don't have the technique to make it happen. And I was already starting to realize I was in trouble. So I had just had this horrible meeting with my supervisor, and I was walking back to Moremi, rehearsing how I was going to explain to my mom, I don't think I'm going to graduate with my set. And some dude gave me this flyer, and I was rolling it and playing with it. And when I got back to my room, I dropped it and it landed on its edge. And it was just this light bulb moment, if I find a way to secure this thing, surely to stay put. And fortunately, this is how I know the universe was involved. Fortunately, I was still dressed because I'm hella lazy. And that could have, because I was already just might as well just head back out. So I went back out. I went to Aki, the architecture department, bought a bunch of papers, came back. I didn't sleep till 2 a.m. But by the time I slept, I realized that there was something here. And so I did the project, and then ASU went on strike. And I was just you know what? It's a big risk, but there's not going to be a better time to try this thing. It was going to be one of those things that either went really well or really badly. There was not going to be any middle ground. And so it took me, ASU was on strike for 6 months. It took me 7 months to complete my first piece. Which was about 5 feet high, 3.5 feet wide. It It took me 7
And this was an
months.
installation.
No, it was just like a piece. Like
Okay,
the way
the
my
piece of
pieces
your
look
pieces
like.
are,
Yeah, it took 7
And
months.
so the paper landing on the floor was the beginning of
It
finding
was
your
the
style, your
beginning.
style.
It was just like surely there's a way to see, because it was like I had rolled it into this roll, and then the way the light hit it, like you could see these little shadows, but there was also light. Like it was
It's a three-dimensional type of image,
three-dimensional, but not aggressively so.
Okay.
And then it was just like, you know, and I just, when things happen, I tend to try to listen to the universe, because some things are they just happen too beautifully, you know, not to take notice of it. And so I did it 7 months later. The strike was over. I finished the piece. I got an A.
Oh wow, so you graduated.
Yes, I graduated. I got an A. And then, you know, making that piece made me realize that in studio practice, I could find something that I loved a lot about graphic design. You know, with graphic design, you're expressing yourself, but it's always within the cage of the brief.
Okay.
The design still has to fulfill its purpose. It has to communicate, or else no matter how good it looks, it's failed. And you are always beholden to the client. It sounds like counterintuitive to be attracted to that, but I found that very attractive. I found having those
barriers,
limits,
I was gonna
those
say it's like barriers and seeing what you can create out of boundaries.
Yeah, and I think unwittingly, in working with paper, I kind of found a version of that, because I'm always going to be limited to the papers that I find.
Yes.
You know, so you know the whole issue I had with like working with pigments, where like the colors were just so bloody disobedient and just stressing me out, it was taken out of the equation. So it was like I found a way to paint, but with paper. And then it gave me an outlet I hadn't even realized that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so after I did the piece, after I graduated, I literally just kept doing it. You know, I made the next one and the next piece and the next piece, and I literally just kept doing it. And then when I was going to do my master's, I had to decide if I was, you know, going to bring this new part of my life into academia, or, you know, keep things separate. But I decided to stick with graphic design. Because research-wise, that's kind of where my interests were.
Okay.
And then there was like a more selfish reason, which is that I just wanted this separation of church and state. You know, I was really, really worried about my frustrations with one starting to taint the other, and then I would find myself maybe frustrated with how my research was going, but I can't turn to making art, you know, you know, so I was just really worried about that. So I decided from the get-go, you know what, we're just going to keep these. So it's almost like living a double life.
Yeah, because you have this sort of academic graphic design and communication life going, but then you have this art making that is completely different from it as well. So now let's go into the work itself. I remember first when I encountered your work first, it was a mixture of paper and fabric, and then you've sort of moved into much more use of paper as well. And you say the technique is called quilling.
Yes.
I think you also talked about again that thing about validation and your work being too playful. So where did like the tenderness and the playfulness come from into the work? Because it is very bright, it is very playful, but it's also very intricate.
It is. I'm honestly not sure, because a lot of times when I start to meet people and people get to know me outside of the context of my work, they're always very surprised to see my work after they've had a chance to
meet you.
To meet me.
I agree.
Because, you know, I'm not a very warm person.
No, I don't think you're not warm. I disagree with that.
You've had a chance to get to know me.
Okay,
you know, I'm not a very warm person. I'm not like very right off the bat. I don't think I have a friend who did not dislike me when they first met me, to be honest.
Dislike you though. So have you been interested in exploring other material? Because you've used fabric, you've used paper. Paper seems to have been a consistent piece of material. Are there any other types of material that interest you?
I think definitely yes, because the interesting thing about the technique is it responds to a variety of material. I find myself constantly like trying things out. But the downside of my work is because it takes so much time, the ideas will always outpace like execution, if that makes any sense.
That's true.
But yeah, I definitely see my practice expanding, especially with the new body of work that I've been exploring. I definitely see it moving towards like installation, and definitely the material I think would start to evolve as well. I don't see myself leaving paper right now.
Okay.
No, like we get each other.
What other materials intrigue you?
Fabrics.
Okay.
Fabrics really intrigue me. I think metal has some interesting possibilities, and I've been doing some research, and I think concrete, believe it or not, believe it or not, might have some really...
You like the difficult stuff, huh?
Go hard or go home. Like if you're going to do it, die on the line. Like go big or go home.
Yeah.
I think concrete might also have some interesting possibilities as well.
Yeah.
But I'm still very much in like the experimentation phase. I think if I had to predict like the next phase now, it would probably be installations. I see my work entering like a more aggressively three-dimensional, more immersive types.
Because I think even the works itself are very, very 3D in themselves. Yeah. So it will be interesting to see it on a much larger scale and what that would do
could look like,
and what that would look like.
Yeah.
Actually, you've also been a teacher, a lecturer at university.
Yeah.
What's that experience been like, especially because there's been a lot of conversation about arts education in Nigeria and how oftentimes it's very limiting, it's not as expansive, and people and even young people are not young people who are artists or art students are not thinking creatively. So what's been your experience being in that space?
Can I be honest?
Yes, please. That's on 100. Keep it 100.
It's hella problematic. It's really problematic. And what makes it frustrating is that it's not just like a cute, simple problems, like a cute, simple issue. Like there are layers to this thing. Like education in Nigeria, it feels kind of like when you move to a new house, but you didn't pack your electronics properly. And then you get to the new house and all your wires are tangled and you can't snip them to undo them, but undoing them just makes it worse. But you can't go out and just buy new wires either. So you're stuck with this jumbo tangled mess that just gets worse.
You do have the best metaphors. Jojo and the wires. Carry on.
That's really what it feels like, because just starting from the students themselves, often they're not coming in with really strong, like a good foundation. You come into year one and you cannot express yourself in simple sentences. Where am I going to start from? Like, that's a foundation problem.
Well, you're also a product of this Nigerian education too. So what was different?
I am, but I think I was really, my sibling and I were really lucky to have three much older siblings who were very particular about our upbringing. They were very particular about how we spoke, and they were like our dealers for books. I would definitely credit my two older sisters with, helping me develop like a genuine appetite for reading. Like every weekend they would show up with new books, Roald Dahl and it Blighting. We read them. Oh, I still love Roald Dahl, by the way.
So do you think that a lot of like young Nigerians especially are not information seeking? Do you think that has something to do?
I think that has like a part to play in it. Okay. I think it's problematic if I'm having a conversation with a year 4 student who does not know what the Rwandan genocide was. It's problematic when I have a roommate in year 4 who had no idea who Hitler was, who did not know who Mandela was. And this was in Unilag.
Okay.
It's just, I feel part of the problem is if you're in a society that does not value these things, when the messaging you're getting over and over again is that ultimately they don't matter, you're not really going to develop an interest.
So so from your teaching experience, how have you been able to sort of navigate, getting your students to be more creative, more engaged, more experimental in the work that they do?
I think it's almost been like forcing them to actually think. It's interesting how often I meet students and there's this thread of they've been educated to just like regurgitate things.
Yeah, consume and regurgitate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't seem to understand that they can have an opinion and how to express that opinion. I think just the sheer act of, compelling them to consider things differently, I think it's really helpful. It's really like when I was moving to South Africa to start my PhD, a part of me was kind of upset because the year one set that I was starting out with, they were going to be done by the time I got back.
Yeah.
And a part of me was kind of sad, and a part of me was also, at the risk of sounding like really snooty or bitchy, was also scared that like the work I had done was just going to be unraveled because they're still in the same problematic, system. What pains me is the potential that just goes lying fallow. Like, it's hurtful. It's really hurtful. It's like seeing a diamond mine and it's just there, and the tools to like access these things are just not being provided, and just the process of you trying to make those tools yourself, like the odds are just against you. Like, it's really maddening. I'm not gonna lie, it's really maddening, but I don't think it's completely hopeless, because if nothing else, the students I've met, I mean, they just need a bit of a push. That's all. Like, they have it. They just need a bit of a push. I mean, yeah, they take the piss sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. They take the piss sometimes. But I think when you put them in a situation where what is expected of them is on a higher level, they rise to the occasion. And I really think that's what they need. Like, the expectations need to be higher. We're too accepting of mediocrity in this society. Like the most basic things seeming to work, and we're like, oh my god, like, no. It just fosters this cycle of mediocrity, And I think that's probably one of the most poisonous things in the educational system. Like, we celebrate mediocrity.
So let's talk about Dean 20.
Oh yes,
I know. I was so excited for you.
Oh, I was shocked.
So please tell the world about Dean 20.
Yeah. So it's basically this grant, the Dean Collection Art Startup 20, where the Dean Collection, which is run by Swizzbeats and Alicia Keys, basically,
homegirl B.
They basically just like put out this notice, like, artists all over the world, we have $5,000 for 20 of you to like make something happen. Like, there's no entry fee, nothing, just like tell us what you want to do. And I wasn't even going to apply because I was like, all these things you apply for. And then like 5 people had tagged me, and then I was like, and then my centered Ayobola was like, shoot your shot, girl. Like, the worst that will happen is you hear no. No is an answer. And then like 2 days to the deadline, I put my application together in like an hour because I was late for my meeting in West. I put it together like an hour, I submitted, and I just forgot about it. And then when he was posting about it, like, 1,000 entries received, 2,000, 5,000, like, no, don't worry, nothing. So I didn't even like think about it anymore. And then the day they announced it, my phone had been off all day because I had been flying all day. And when I turned my phone back on, it was like 10 p.m. or so, and I just saw like a barrage of messages, and the first thing I did was panic. I'm like, oh my god, someone is dead and my siblings are trying to reach me. I just panicked. I'm like, you know what, even if someone is dead, like, you have to like. And then I went through, and then I saw my picture, and I saw people tagging me, and then I realized, oh my gosh, it's real. And then I did my usual standard, turned my phone back off, went to bed. Like, in the morning, if it's still there,
then it's real.
And then I'm like, oh my god, it's real. And I was ecstatic, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's real. Now I have to do what I said. What I said I was going to do. Oh my goodness. So I decided that what I proposed, because when I was writing the application, I just wrote it with the sense of, okay, if I had this money, what would I do? I didn't actually think I would have to do it.
Yeah.
But like, if I had this money, I would have my first solo.
Yeah.
It would be in Lagos, because, everything started for me in Lagos.
Yeah.
I feel this obligation for my first solo to be in this space. I'd have my first solo. This is what I would explore. And the grant would put me in a position to kind of do things the way I want to do them.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, money is power. Money gives you options. I know we like to act like money is this evil bougie thing, but it's necessary. Let's just be honest. It's necessary. And then I was like, okay, and a percentage, and I pledged that a percentage of the proceeds will go to the Mirabel Center.
Okay.
Which is a center that provides medical psychological services to sexual assault victims in Lagos. And I was like, yeah, and I did a budget. Fortunately, I had a bit of experience doing budgets, because I've had to do budgets for grant applications.
Yeah.
I did a budget and I submitted it. And so my first solo is happening in March. Ooh. Gosh, this one is tough though. No, wait. Okay.
Do you want three options?
Okay, it would
I'll be generous.
Oh wow. Okay, it would be a mash between the entire Lord of the Rings soundtrack.
Okay. I'm trying to see where we're going with this, but
it would be a cross between the entire Lord of the Rings soundtrack, a bit of Lord of the Rings soundtrack if it had been a collaborative piece between Hans Zimmer, Howard Shore, and Ramin Djawadi. Yeah, I think
that's a lot.
I know, but I can't. That's a tough question now.
You're quite extra, aren't you?
Have you seen my work?
Right. This is true, though.
I think my biggest regret was, or would be, allowing the fear of failure stop me from trying things. For a while, I was the kind of person that if I was not guaranteed to be kick-ass at this thing, I just wasn't going to try it. And I let quite a few opportunities slip by, because of that. And I do regret it now. I'd like to think I'm a better person now.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I hate being bad at stuff.
Yeah, I can't stand being bad at stuff. And also, I'm kind of I don't use the word lazy, but I'm very selectively active.
That's a new interesting terminology.
I'm very selectively active, and and that kind of feeds into that. I'm not willing to expend energy anyhow.
Okay.
So I feel if I'm not going to be kick-ass at this thing, I'm just not going to do it. But it took me some time to realize that just interesting things weren't getting explored because a part of me was scared I would be crap at it. Just calm down. I think for a while I just had so much anger because I have this need for control. I have this need for order, and I was that kind of person that was really reactive to stuff.
Yeah.
I think if I could go back, I would just tell myself to just chill. Even though I'll probably slap myself because anyone saying chill to me back then was going to get a slap. I'll just tell myself to chill and just try to enjoy whatever was happening at that time. I just had a lot of anger, and I think I've kind of evolved, or I'm evolving into the kind of person who recognizes you can't control things that happen, but you can control how you react to it. Which has really, really helped me. I just told myself to just breathe, girl, breathe. Just breathe. I think I would be some kind of citrus.
Okay.
Some kind of citrus, because you kind of don't know what you're getting a bit. Sometimes it's going to be aggressively sour and borderline cruel to your palate, and sometimes it's going to be sweet and, oh my child, come to me. You
clearly thought through this.
I think I would be some kind of citrus.
You clearly thought through this.
I do, because just from a practical standpoint, if you explore history, cultural change will always precede political, administrative change. Always standard. The one thing about history is we're doomed to repeat it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because there's precedent. So yes, I strongly believe art can change the world. It will take time. It's not like a magic trick, but it can.
Ayobola, thank you.
Thank you, Wana.
I had a great time.
1 year in the making.
I know.
You made it
Fun?
happen. I had fun. If nothing else, I feel like calmer. Like I think I'm going to go back to work.
Okay.
With a bit more zen.
Is this like the best interview you've ever had?
I think so.
You should say yes.
Yes. No doubt about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Like it's been really cool. And you'll come in March, right?
Of course.
Yes.
Well, of course.
You have to be
Take
there.
selfies and all. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Culture Diaries. Hope you enjoyed our conversation between myself and the wonderful Ayobola Kekere-Ekun. You can, of course, find out all the awesome stuff I get up to by checking out my website, which is WanaWana.net. You can follow me on all my social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram. Don't really use Facebook that much, but Facebook too. And YouTube as well. Until next time, remember, art is life.